In the last video, we had a look at the fact that there were formulas in the formula bars, but these are very different types of formulas than are available in Excel. You'll notice that each of these formulas are in two parts. There is a word, and then a dot, a full stop or period, and then another word. And you'll also notice that there are some words which are capitals. So what is all of this? Well, this is called the M language. M for mashup. And what this is for is to translate each of your steps into different formulas. So you can see here we have a formula which has excel.workbook, file.content, and in there is the name of the workbook. So it might look a bit alien at first, but if you can see, it's going to do something to an Excel workbook, and it's going to do something to the file contents, and there's the file, then it starts looking a bit less strange. So we've got excel.file.source, table dot, and table dot. In fact, the vast majority of the M language functions are this two-word naming. Now, if I just Google Power BI M language, you can see, for me, the top item is from Microsoft.com. And if you go into there, you will see that there's an awful lot of detail. Get information of over the 700 M functions. Well, I click that, and here we have all of the different functions. So you can see all of these words are the first part of the function. So we've had table dot before. These are all of the table functions. And you can see that there are an awful lot of them. And it would take you ages to read all of this. Now, you can read all of this by clicking on Download PDF. So if I do that, you'll see that it downloads a 800-page, very detailed document all about the M language. And if you are going to be some sort of M guru, then you might want to have read this just once. However, there's an awful lot of functions. And for this course, we don't need to concentrate on even half of these functions. So these are the functions that we'll be using as part of this course. Date, date time, date zone, and time. Day, that just gives a list of the days from Friday to Thursday. Duration, list, number, table, and text. Now within this, and this is available as a PDF in the resources part of this course, just go right back to the beginning of the course, you'll see a lecture called Resources is attached to this. I have listed all of the main functions. Now you'll notice there's a lot of repetition. For instance, date is in the current day, is in current month, is in current quarter, is in next day, is in previous day. So what I've done instead is I've given you the important ones, but then I've highlighted the really important ones. Now, if you are going forward to the certification, then my advice would be to memorize the ones with a yellow highlight. So here are all the day functions, or date functions. Date time functions, there's only a couple that I really suggest you memorize. From and to are very important functions, but they're there for all of these different functions, so I'm not highlighting them in each page. And at the least for the certification, you should be acquainted. You should know that these functions exist. Date time zone, so that's just giving you the time now and so forth. These are the day values. Durations. JSON and XML functions I'm putting in there because we will be, towards the end of this part, opening a JSON and XML document. But you don't really need to know about these too detailed. Here are the list functions, and we've got things like the min, the max, the sum, the count, non-null count. Here are your number functions. A lot of these you can identify from Excel. So mod, power, round, sign, ABS, for instance. The table functions, as you might expect with a table of data, are very numerous. But when you look at it, there's only around 20 functions that I'm saying are really important, and a lot of those, like first n and last n, can be paired together. Text functions, so if you think of the text functions in Excel, then these are they in M. Now, in case you're wondering, M is based on another language. Now, you may have heard languages like Visual Basic, VB, or C#. Well, this is based on the language called F#, which is a Fortran language, which I think next to nobody uses. I may be a bit prejudiced about this, but C# and Visual Basic are the main languages. So why they decided to invent a new language based on a language that very few people use, I don't know. And then finally there are time functions. Now there is something to be said about M functions in that they are case sensitive. So you must have each word starting with a capital letter. So you can see text dot position of any. You can see all the capitalizations. Thankfully, the capitalizations are regular. So if you know the command is reverse rows, then you know that both of those have got a capital R at the beginning. Now, another good thing about all of this with the M language is that everything that we've got in the home, transform, and add column will be translated into M. So that's why I'm saying if you're going to use this for basic or intermediate, you don't really need to learn anything about M. The computer will interpret it for you. However, there are some really good things later on if you do learn the M's. Now, as we're going through this course, I will be mentioning each of the M formulas, because, as I say, I think it's important if you have even so much as a nodding acquaintance. That's a good way to start learning. Now, I have created a Word document which contains all of those 860 odd pages in a lot more readable fashion. It doesn't contain all of the examples, it doesn't contain all of the detail, but what it does contain is a lot fewer pages, only 86 pages according to this. But I still think that's actually a fair amount to read, quite a bit. So what I've done is I have created another manual which is called Power BI Manual Reduced. And what this does is it looks at those important functions that I was looking at earlier. So rather than wading through them all, you're now wading through a select example. So we have got examples here, we've got the syntax, we've got in words what it actually does, and it does this fairly swiftly. Now, if you want the full thing of anything, say you want a date dot week of month, then please go back to your original reference. So I've just Googled Power BI M language. We'll look at date, we'll look at week of month, and that gives you more information about it. So what I've done there is just giving you a précis, but if you want more information, then go onto the internet. That's what it's there for. But what you've got in these documents is enough to get to grips with the majority of the commands. And sometimes I've even put down the Excel equivalent. So date.week of year is the equivalent of week num. So in the next video, we're going to actually start looking at the menus. We're going to go roughly from left to right, starting from home and then going to transform and add columns. And we're going to tackle at each stage a problem. So we're going to demonstrate what these functions are for and why you should use them and when you should use them. So for instance, we're going to start off with this problem. The column headings are nothing like what this should be.